It's Tuesday, January 20th. In the headlines, government launches the Shelter Recovery Program. Parents now allowed longer time with children at the Bustamante Hospital for Children. In business news, Cherie Martin is now acting head of the National Commercial Bank. Regionally, in Barbados, the Democratic Labour Party, DLP, outlines measures they will implement if they are successful at the upcoming general election polls. In sports, coaches speak out against the cancellation of a Champions Cup schoolboy competition. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The parents of children admitted to the Bustamante Hospital for Children will now be allowed to remain with them until 10 p.m. each day under a new pilot program launched by the Ministry of Health and Wellness. The initiative, called the Family Caregivers Pilot Program, is aimed at formally involving parents, guardians, and family members in a child's care while they are hospitalized. For years, parents have raised concerns about restrictions that limited the amount of time they could spend with their children in hospital. Portfolio Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says the pilot reflects the ministry's commitment to patient and family-centered healthcare.
If it works, and I believe it will, we're going to have a more efficient, productive application of providing health solutions to our youngsters, our patients.
He says it will closely monitor and evaluate the program, and once proven successful, plans to expand it to other hospitals across the island, particularly those providing pediatric and neonatal services.
The Chief Medical Officer and myself on a mission to the Philippines last year, discussing a range of possible collaboration, took note and prepared ourselves to look at their family caregivers program in their hospitals where it is mainstreamed, not just in a pediatric or a children's hospital. And I was certainly impressed. It works.
Hundreds of Jamaicans whose houses were damaged during Hurricane Melissa last October are set to benefit from the government's Shelter Recovery Program. The Ministry of Labour and Social Security is spearheading the initiative, and Portfolio Minister Pernell Charles Jr. says more than 70,000 households have been assessed, impacting over 200,000 individuals.
And they have some who have no significant damage, others minor, major, severe. Now we focus down on the minor, major, and severe in terms of those who will receive benefit. And so far, in looking on that three-tiered categorization, the percentages are 42% minor, 40% major, such as you losing your roof, and 18% severe, means you really have lost most, if not everything.
Support under the program will be delivered through 6 avenues, including grants under the Restoration of Owner or Occupant Family Shelters Program, roofs, government-led and partnership-led repairs, National Housing Trust assistance, modular housing solutions, and relocation where required.
And it includes all of what we are doing, which will be the cash grants, the repairs that have been done, the support from the partners, everything. Once it's connected to our beneficiary list, Senator Duncan, it's a part of the program.
Minister Charles says priority will be given to households with severe damage and vulnerable groups, including the elderly, single-parent families, and persons with disabilities, adding that approximately $5 billion will be directed to severely damaged homes. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness is urging Jamaicans to remain vigilant as the government moves to distribute billions of dollars in housing assistance under the Restoration of Owner or Occupant Family Shelters (ROOFs) program. The warning comes amid concerns that scammers may attempt to exploit vulnerable families affected by recent hurricane damage. Danita Rodney tells us more.
At the program's launch, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness highlighted the rise of artificial intelligence scams and cautioned beneficiaries of the Restoration of Owner or Occupant Family Shelters (ROOFs) initiative to be alert to individuals attempting to exploit the program.
So in a program like this, where I have seen an artificially generated image of the Minister of Labour and Social Security and of other influential persons, including myself, doing things that I cannot do, which is dance. We have to be absolutely careful that there is no hijacking of a program like this that could have persons being caught paying for receiving the grant, for example, because there are such scams out there where an unsuspecting person may be caught up in a scheme.
The Prime Minister emphasized that there is no cost to the program and that any social media claims suggesting otherwise should be ignored.
There is no intermediary. I want to make that point clear. The Ministry of Labour and Social Security is not hiring anyone, any agent, any intermediary to help you to get the grant. So if anyone comes to you, or you may see something on any of the social media suggesting this, please dismiss it.
He says the new program is aimed at empowering citizens with the information they need to access support safely and directly.
So we are having the launch today to focus the nation's attention on the program and to give the necessary information so that you as the citizen can be empowered with the information and act accordingly in your interest. That's the purpose of a launch.
Under the ROOFs program, eligible households will receive grants of $75,000, $200,000, or $500,000 based on the level of damage to their homes. Disbursements are expected to begin at the end of January. Reporting for the news on PBCJ, I am Danita Rodney.
In this week's Living Healthy report, antimicrobial resistance is not just a human health issue. It affects animals, food systems, and the health of our entire Caribbean region. In the following report, Anika Hull-James, animal health specialist at the Caribbean Agricultural Health and Food Safety Agency, explains how responsible antimicrobial use in animals is critical to protecting food safety, livelihoods, and public health across the region.
One of the critical things that we see in the Caribbean sometimes is a lack of full understanding of how antibiotics should be utilized. And so I want to encourage persons to always ensure, particularly for our farmers, particularly for our farm workers and owners of livestock, when we are treating our livestock, ensure that your veterinarian is part of this process. Ensure that your antibiotics are indeed prescribed by a veterinarian and that you are following the advice of the veterinarian, because we understand sometimes that when our livestock may receive treatment, we may have a period where we feel like the animal is indeed now treated, fully treated, and is and it's showing signs as though the animal is indeed in full health. However, it's important to still adhere to the entire period for the antibiotics to be given. And very importantly, after that period of antibiotics is completed, what's also critical is that we adhere to the withdrawal times. Our food comes from somewhere. And so the livestock that we treat on our farms are the same livestock which will end up at our tables. So we have to be cognizant of this and understand that our actions as farmers, our actions as caretakers for our animals do indeed affect our own health as humans. And so we want to really encourage persons to ensure that you're completing the full dose of antibiotics. We are encouraging persons to not simply just take medication from fellow farmers or colleagues. When you feel that there's an issue with your animal, it's advised that you get in contact with your veterinarian and let them prescribe what is indeed needed. Let them provide you with the advice so that your animal is indeed able to be as healthy as possible.
Time now for the business report with Denise Williams.
Welcome to today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, bringing you the development shaping markets, capital access, and business decision making across Jamaica and the region. Let's get into the stories that matter. National Commercial Bank Jamaica has announced a leadership transition which will see the departure of CEO Bruce Bowen and the promotion of Cherie Martin to fill his vacancy. The announcement was made Monday morning by NCBJ Chairman Robert Almeida in a letter to team members. In that letter, Almeida noted that in 2023, Bowen was appointed to guide the bank through a critical turnaround period, noting, and I quote, "That phase of work is now largely complete, and as we move into the next stage of sustainable growth, Bruce will be leaving the organization on February 28, 2026 to pursue other interests. We thank him sincerely for his leadership and contribution during this important period in the bank's journey." End quote. As Bowen will be proceeding on vacation leave prior to his departure, Almeida announced that Martin, the current Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer, has been appointed to act as Interim Chief Executive Officer of NCB effective January 19. Statistical Institute of Jamaica Deputy Director General and Director of Surveys Dr. Natalie Simpson, during Statin's quarterly press briefing at the AC Hotel Kingston on Thursday, January 15, shares trends in Jamaica's employment landscape. There were 126,700 persons employed in the occupation group Clerical Support Workers in October 2025, reflecting the largest decrease in employment of 11.2% compared to October 2024. Among craft and related trades workers, employment stood at 160,000 persons, representing a decrease of 11,700 persons, of which 8,900 were males, Statin outlined. And it continued that despite overall decline, notable gains were recorded among managers, where employment increased by 19.3% to 101,400 persons. More persons were also employed as technicians and associate professionals, resulting in a total of 94,300 in October 2025. There was also a notable reduction in the real estate and other business services industry of 10,400 individuals, resulting in approximately 155,000 individuals employed. Statton also highlighted that the second largest decline in employment occurred in the arts, entertainment, recreation, and other services, with 6,400 persons leaving that segment and 117,000 remaining. Statton noted that what saw some increases were accommodation and food services activities, which increased by 7,900, and education, human health, and social work activities, which increased by 6,900 persons. For the trading period of January 19, 2026, the most actively traded securities were Edufocal Limited with 6,704,724 units, or 22.51% of market sales activities. Jamaica Highway Limited with 6,159,444 units, representing 20.68% of market sales activities. Tire Holdings Jamaica Limited with 3,871,473 units, representing 13% of market sales activities. Investor activity remained concentrated in transportation, construction, and distribution plays, signaling continued interest in dividend-producing and strategic assets. Turning to the foreign exchange market, based on Bank of Jamaica data for January 19, 2026, Forex traders recorded significant activity with strong demand across major currencies. For the US dollar, trading margins reflected steady liquidity, with the US selling at $158.26 and buying at $156.28. For the Canadian dollar, moderate gains supported by $6.69 in transaction spreads. The Canadian dollar sold for $115.29 and was bought for $108.60. For the British pound, their continued volatility offered short-term trading opportunities of $4.19 in profits for the bank. The British pound sold for $212.43 and was bought for $208.24. These movements underscore the importance of cash flow timing and currency awareness for businesses managing import costs, debt servicing, or overseas exposure. For our credit report tip of the day, did you know that you can sometimes access cash through the stock market without using your credit report? While a strong credit profile is often seen as the main gateway to opportunity, it is not the only way to unlock leverage. If you own shares, your stock portfolio can be used as collateral to access cash without selling your investments, a strategy known as pledging shares. Whether your holdings are listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, Barbados Stock Exchange, the New York Stock Exchange, or the Toronto Stock Exchange, the principle is the same. If your shares have value, they can be used to secure a loan or credit facility. This approach focuses on the value of your assets rather than your credit history, allowing your investments to remain intact while providing liquidity for growth, expansion, or new income opportunities. Until next time, stay informed, stay intentional, and keep building forward. See you soon.
In regional news, Democratic Labour Party leader Ralph Thorne says the party is preparing to formally present its candidates to the public ahead of the general election. He has already announced who will carry the DLP's flag in each of the 30 constituencies, but he noted that more information about them will be released. The DLP is campaigning under the theme Barbados First. Mr. Thorne outlined some of the measures the DLP will be implementing if it is successful at the polls. General elections are scheduled to be held in Barbados on February 11, 2026.
This team and I will commit to doing the following. 1, we will reduce VAT. 2, we will introduce anti-gang legislation. 3, we will take immediate steps to reducing the cost of living. 4, we will promote productivity and efficiency in government while reviewing wages in relation to inflation. 5, we will proclaim and enact the integrity in public life legislation.
In Antigua and Barbuda, Prime Minister and Finance Minister Gaston Brown is expressing renewed confidence in the country's economic outlook, projecting strong growth driven by continued investment in tourism and hospitality.
Antigua and Barbuda's economy will only get stronger this year, advancing by up to a further 6%. That's the conviction of Prime Minister Gaston Brown. He believes it will be bolstered by burgeoning investments.
Now, the pipeline remains strong for the next several years, and we can see Antigua and Barbuda sustaining a growth rate between 5 and 6% per annum because of the amount of investments that we have that will commence within the ensuing years.
The Prime Minister says that growth will be led by investment in the tourism and hospitality industry.
Confirmed hotel and resort projects represent several $1 billion in planned investments over the coming years, with over $370 million, that's US dollars, projected to be spent in 2026. That's $1 billion EC dollars to be spent this year. Now, these projects will generate thousands of jobs, deepen linkages with local suppliers, and further strengthen Antigua and Barbuda's position as a premier marquee tourism destination.
He's also convinced the construction boom is not limited to tourism. He says building homes for locals is also contributing to the economic growth, linking ownership to prosperity.
Significant progress has also been made in housing and urban renewal, reinforcing the linkage between economic growth and social development. Over the past decade, more than 3,000 parcels of land were made available at heavily subsidized price, and approximately 2,000 homes are constructed through National Housing and Chapel.
These forecast levels of growth are expected to outstrip the average of the rest of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. For ABS News, I'm Ursula Charles Jr.
President of Barbados is taking his message of hope and possibility directly to the classroom as he resumes school visits aimed at inspiring the nation's youth. Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic paid visits to St. Mary's and Wesley Hall primary schools, relaunching an initiative focused on encouraging students to believe in their potential and give back to their communities. CBC News' Rachel Agard has that story.
Students of St. Mary's and Wesley Hall primary schools are treated to a visit from President of Barbados, Lieutenant Colonel the Most Honorable Jeffrey Bostic. He tells the youngsters his presence reintroduces an initiative started by former Governor General Sir Elliot Belgrave. The president, a former student of St. Mary's Primary School, says this time around the visits are being done under the theme From Humble Beginnings, a Legacy of Hope. He salutes Sir Elliot for initiating this type of interaction with the children and says he is honored to take it a step further.
I had the opportunity to attend about 4 of those with him, the 4 city schools, and I really was very impressed and I enjoyed those visits so much that when I got the call inviting me to be president of this country, and I started to think about what is it that I would want to achieve, one of the first things that came to my mind was to start back these school visits. The difference is that I'm also going to be visiting secondary schools as well because of the situation that we face in the country at the moment.
Much to the delight of students, Lieutenant Colonel Bostic joined them in the audience and told them to treat him like an ordinary person.
Imagine, students, one day having sat here, that you too could be the president or a top-class footballer, cricketer, netballer, top-class barber, whatever. whatever your desire is, whatever it is that you want to achieve, you can be that person just as I am at this point in time.
Lieutenant Colonel Bostic says, aside from God, he owes everything that he is and has achieved to former teacher of his alma mater, Kenneth Hines. The president recalls Mr. Hines took him aside and invested in his future, which assisted in him sitting and passing the then screening test.
I believe that when you have benefited from things like that, when you have benefited from a community and a village that have raised you and have caused you to be where you are at, if you don't feel it within you to give back, then I think that the learning on you would have been wasted, in my honest opinion. The teaching would have been wasted.
And the president had this message specifically for the students.
You can achieve. Do not allow your circumstances, if they're negative especially, to stop you from being who you can be and who you want to be. And that's the purpose of my visit here today, to try to inspire you. I want you to take it seriously and understand that nothing in life comes easily. And that the people who were at the top in a lot of areas struggled. They struggled, but they persevered. They did not give up. There was no retreat. There was no surrender.
Lieutenant Colonel Bostic says this will be his greatest reward. Rachel Agard, CBC News.
In our sports report, we kick it with football. Two high school football coaches, Raymond Watson of Manning Cup finalists Jamaica College and Hector Wright of Brent Francis Cup finalists Cornwall College, have expressed disappointment following the cancellation of the ISA Champions Cup, a decision that has brought the senior schoolboy football season to an abrupt end. The Champions Cup, which features teams from the Manning Cup and the Costa Cup competitions in a knockout format, was scheduled to begin on Tuesday. The tournament is traditionally played late in the schoolboy football season, but was rescheduled this year due to disruptions caused by Hurricane Melissa in late October. Clarendon-based Glenmore High are the back-to-back defending champions of the competition. However, on Sunday, the Inter-Secondary Schools Sports Association, ISA, announced that it was cancelling the tournament, citing complications with staging the competition at this time of the year. In a brief statement, ISA said the decision was taken in consultation with its stakeholders and indicates that plans are already in place for the competition's return next season. And that's the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thank you so much for watching.